Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
It's Friday. Hallelujah. We have made it almost to the weekend. If you listen to me for the next 2 hours, hopefully I will help you get here a little bit quicker. Zach Gray set to join the show here in an hour. He's got college football bets. We've got college football tomorrow. It's going to be a great day. Oh, man, we have Colts tomorrow as well as they're playing their final preseason game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Welcome in to the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X _ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app, wherever you download your apps. And, of course, 14:30 a.m. as well. So let's start with the Colts. I don't know if you've heard, but they made a decision earlier this week on who the starting quarterback was going to be for the season. It was the unpopular pick. They went with Daniel Jones over the former number 4 overall pick, Anthony Richardson, to be the starter this year. A whole bunch of people whined and cried like, oh, I can't believe that they haven't given Anthony Richardson enough reps. A lot of crying about the reps that Anthony Richardson has and has not gotten. And it's incredible. So Shane Steichen was at the podium yesterday, and he was talking about the plan for this upcoming Saturday tomorrow against the Cincinnati Bengals. And while announcing the plans, he also announced that Anthony Richardson will not be playing tomorrow. Starters will not be playing, and Anthony Richardson won't be playing. Here is Shane Steichen's explanation on why Anthony Richardson is sitting tomorrow.
Well, I think, he's one play away, from going into an actual game, and don't want to take the risk there in that situation. We got a lot of our 3s and 4s playing in this game. It's their last opportunity to go prove it, to make a 53-man roster, and that's where it's at.
That's where it's at. Shane Steichen right there talking about Anthony Richardson and how he's not going to play tomorrow. It is a lot of, 3rd and 4th string guys playing tomorrow, and how Anthony Richardson is one play away. And it's a really nice explanation. Now, I am not saying that Shane Steichen is lying, but he's not telling the whole truth. If we had injected Shane Steichen with truth serum before that press conference, and he had been asked the question, why is Anthony Richardson not playing tomorrow? He would have said a lot of what he said in that clip. He's one play away. We're going to play 3rd and 4th string guys. It's their final opportunity to make the roster before final cuts are made. And then he also would have said, I'm also not playing Anthony Richardson because if he plays well, I've got an even bigger conundrum on my hands than what I already do. Right now, he is correct. If Anthony Richardson gets hurt, then all of a sudden you are one play away from Riley Leonard having to take snaps. And that is terrifying. I know that there are some people out there who are third string quarterback apologists. For some reason, you didn't want Anthony Richardson or Joe Flacco last year. You wanted Sam Ehlinger. And then the Colts told you that what they thought of Sam Ehlinger when they didn't bring him back. He's playing for the Broncos now. And so they drafted Riley Leonard. You were like, great, Notre Dame kid. He needs to be the starter. He absolutely does not. Riley Leonard does not need to see the field at all this next year because that would go horrifically bad. Okay? It is just the idea of Riley Leonard having to play real snaps for the Colts is terrifying. The real reason why Anthony Richardson isn't playing, though, is not because he's one snap away. They want to keep their backup quarterback healthy. It's because if Anthony Richardson goes out there and he plays great, then that raises the heat around an already controversial decision. Okay, it just does. And Shane Steichen is already dealing with enough crap. He doesn't want to have to deal with it anymore. If you go and you listen to the press conference, James Boyd asked some very pointed questions about the development of Anthony Richardson, and Shane Steichen, in perfect Shane Steichen fashion, didn't answer any of them. He just threw out the word process and was like, all right, let's move on, folks. And that's what happened. Okay. And we also see stuff like this happen all the time in sports. Unless you have a superstar quarterback, then the most popular guy in every football town is the backup quarterback. Anthony Richardson, being the former number 4 overall pick, the fact that he's only started 15 games in his NFL career, and the fact that people want him to be the guy, like he's already very popular. And I think it is a very fair question to ask, why is this young quarterback, who Shane Steichen himself has said needs reps in order to get better, why is he not getting these reps in the final preseason game? It's a very fair question. The answer is Shane Steichen doesn't want to have to deal with the backlash if he plays well. Pay attention to what's happening in New York with the New York Giants. Jackson Dart keeps walking out there in these preseason games and playing really well. Part of that is Brian Dable, right? Giving him easy throws, a lot of screens, a lot of RPO stuff, very, very similar things to what Jackson Dart ran during his time at Ole Miss. And then occasionally he'll make a nice throw downfield. But because he's looked so good, Brian Dable is going to deal with the issue that Shane Steichen is trying to avoid. And that is, hey, Brian, the Giants are 0-3 with Russell Wilson as the starting quarterback. Jackson Dart looked really good in the preseason against second, third, and fourth stringers. Why don't you play him at quarterback? That is the thing that Shane Steichen is trying to avoid happening right now. As soon as Russell Wilson goes south, they are going to call for Jackson Dart to be the starter. Because right now, New York Giant fans have video evidence of Jackson Dart looking good and playing well in a New York Giants jersey. Shane Steichen wants for me and for you to have the image of 48% completion percentage Anthony Richardson in our heads for as long as possible. The last time we saw Anthony Richardson take real snaps, that was against the Green Bay Packers. 3 drives, 6 of 11 passing, missed, DJ Giddens twice on what should have been easy completions. That is the image that Shane Steichen wants for you and for me to have in our heads for as long as possible. Part of that is because Daniel Jones hasn't been good in the preseason. He's completed 53% of his passes in the preseason for 245 yards and no touchdowns. If Anthony Richardson walks out there against what is already a bad Bengals defense, can't imagine how awful their third and fourth string guys are going to be. If Anthony Richardson walks out there and has a half where he completes 63% of his passes and the Colts score touchdowns on 4 of their 5 drives, then you'd have to deal with that. And the Colts Shane Steichen wants for this whole quarterback situation to be settled. And as of right now, it is. If I was a head coach, I would want as little drama as possible. And Anthony Richardson, being as wildly popular as he already is, like there's going to be drama because of that, but you don't want to add any more fuel to the fire. Because if Richardson was to waltz out there and have like a killer half, then the pounding on the table for Anthony Richardson to be the starter from the fan base would become louder than what it already is. Okay? Because once again, Daniel Jones was not impressive during the preseason. Completed 53% of his passes for 245 yards, no touchdowns. He didn't lead a single touchdown drive the entire preseason. That's kind of an issue. And that, compared to a potentially great Anthony Richardson half against the Bengals, would only result in more controversy. And right now, like it's simmered down. Like obviously when the decision was first made, then, people got really upset. And that's pretty normal. But, over the past couple of days, it's simmered down a little bit. And Shane Steichen said something yesterday about Daniel Jones that just made me think even more about like why he won the job and why it makes so much sense. He's talked a lot about process, and he wants a quarterback who can get the Colts in and out of the huddle, and he can get them in the right protection and all of those things. And Shane Steichen was asked about Daniel Jones and how dedicated he is to being good at football. And his answer is really good. Here's Shane Steichen talking about his new starting quarterback, Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I think it's a great correlation. A guy that's, he loves the process, in here early, the work ethic, obviously being a veteran player, seeing a lot of ball, the way he talks to the receivers about route discipline and certain things with the offensive line. I think he'll pay dividends for us.
Is he? I think a couple of guys even said he's pretty assertive about that stuff, like with the guys. I mean, we talk to him and he's quiet as a mouse. So, like, how do you see him sort of assert himself that way?
You see it on the practice field all the time after plays. He'll bring guys over. Hey, on this play, hey, make this adjustment here. I like this versus this coverage. If they're playing this, shoot, you might need to break that route off a little sooner rather than later. All those little details that go into it. Like I said, with those guys, and they're taken to it. Like I said, I think it'll pay dividends.
Shane Steichen right there talking about Daniel Jones and, the attention to detail and how he tells his receivers how to run routes against different coverages and all those things. I like Anthony Richardson. He seems like a nice guy. Okay, I would love for him to succeed at some point in his career. But he doesn't give off the impression that he's a super detail-oriented person. And that's what a lot of this comes down to. I was, scrolling on my phone last night, as it seems like everyone does, and I saw this clip of Chase Daniels breaking down some Caleb Williams tape. And it was just fascinating. He's like, that this is going to be cover 2 because this corner's foot is turned this way. It's just like the smallest, most minute detail is what gave away what kind of defense the Bills were in on that drive. And in a league where the margins are so thin, like, you have to pay attention to the details. Like you have to know where your guys are to a T. And so hearing that Daniel Jones is incredibly particular about how his wide receivers run routes and how they change their routes based off of the coverages that they're playing against, is just another thing that gives him the edge over Anthony Richardson. It is no secret that when Anthony Richardson was first drafted, everyone in town, the media, the members of the Colts organization, Colts fans, they wanted for Anthony Richardson to be the guy. Anytime Anthony Richardson did or said anything of note that was positive, like, you couldn't get rid of it. It just, like, showed up, for me at least, it showed up on my timeline all the time. There was no possible way for me to not see when Anthony Richardson did or said something correctly. And Richardson has been here for 3 years, going into year 3. I've never seen a report of Anthony Richardson pulling a teammate aside and telling them how to / where to run a route. I have seen reports of Anthony Richardson not showing up early. I have seen reports of Anthony Richardson just showing up on time. I have seen reports of Anthony Richardson getting benched for Joe Flacco last year, and then that sparking his willingness to go meet with the offensive line coach to talk about protections. I've seen multiple reports on Anthony Richardson's lack of attention to detail, his lack of doing the extra things. Daniel Jones has been here for one training camp. And look, I've watched him play for 6 years in New York. I don't think Daniel Jones is very good. I don't. He's not very good. No other way to put it, okay? But he's been here for one training camp, and we already know that he shows up early, as Shane Steichen just highlighted right there in that answer. And he's very particular about how his receivers run routes. That tells me that he understands how to be a pro and that he is detail-oriented and that he understands that every little thing matters. Because in the NFL, when you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you play 11 one-score games and you go 11-0 in them, that allows you to be the 1 seed in a loaded AFC. And for the Colts, a team that's going to be in a lot of one-possession games this year, I want the quarterback in there that is the most detailed oriented, because those small little details are oftentimes the difference between winning games and losing games in the NFL. Anthony Richardson, he's been here 3 years. He's had, two years and a training camp's worth of opportunity to show that he is detail oriented. He hasn't done it. That paired with his not showing up early, not putting in the extra time, and his inability to consistently be accurate. That is what cost him the job as the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. Okay, Daniel Jones didn't win the job. Anthony Richardson lost it over the course of the last 2 years with his inability to stay on the field and his inability to be as committed as he needed to be the starting quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts. So he will not play tomorrow against the Bengals. Neither will Daniel Jones or any of the other Colts starters. Colts are in the process of trying to get healthy for week 1. It's going to be a lot of, third and fourth string guys playing against the Bengals. So a lot of guys fighting for roster spots. I don't know how good the game is going to be, but it will be incredibly hard because the Bengals, they're doing the same thing. They're playing their third and fourth string guys that are trying to make the roster. So should be a lot of fun to watch from a competitive standpoint, guys trying to earn some spots. So when we come back here in about 4 minutes, I'm going to highlight some of the guys that are going to play tomorrow, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Colts starters not playing.
it's in today's sports world, it's here. The real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe and hop in the chat to converse with the other people in there, you can also listen, or you can also watch over on X _ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can find wherever you download your apps. And of course, you can listen on 1430 AM if you're driving around the Indianapolis area. The Indianapolis Colts will play their final preseason game tomorrow against the Cincinnati Bengals. Shane Steichen announced yesterday that starters and Anthony Richardson, because he's not the starter anymore, will not be playing against the Bengals. And the biggest reason for this is obviously injury. Colts are trying to get healthy for week one. I mean, just the list of injuries that have happened. Hunter Wohler out for the year. Justin Wally out for the year. Nick Cross has been dealing with a hip pointer. Kenny Moore hurt his knee. Jalen Jones, tweaked his hamstring. He's still not back yet. Juju Brents tweaked his hamstring. He is back. He practiced yesterday. Travarius Ward has dealt with some nicks and bruises and things of that nature. JT Tuimoloau has gotten hurt in each of the two preseason games. Like, we can just keep on running through all of the injuries that have transpired over the course of this Colts training camp. So, good call by Shane Steichen. Let's not play our starters in the preseason. Okay? Now, I am very intrigued to kind of see who some of the guys that end up playing are. And the other thing that I find pretty concerning is the lack of production from the starters in the preseason. Before I talk about the bench players that I am kind of intrigued by, I do want to talk about that because it is concerning. You watch the Bengals play, and their starting offense just scores every preseason drive. It's kind of insane. The Chiefs, when they play their starters, because they do that every preseason, what happens? The offense clicks. The defense gets stops. It looks easy. It looks like exactly what it is, a practice game. It looks like practice for the Ravens when they play their starters, for the Chiefs when they play their starters, for the Bengals when they play their starters. When the Colts played their starters, it was kind of concerning. Already highlighted how bad Daniel Jones was in the preseason, completed 53% of his passes for 245 yards, led 0 touchdown drives. That's kind of concerning. I mean, it was an issue when the Colts starters played. Like, we heard about how great A.D. Mitchell was in camp. But the most notable moment of A.D. Mitchell's preseason was when he lined up off sides and negated a big play. It's the most notable moment. Okay, Josh Downs, I don't think he played in any of the preseason games. Michael Pittman Jr., wasn't super noticeable. Alec Pierce wasn't very noticeable. Tanner Bortolini and Matt Gonsalves had some really bad moments during their minutes in the preseason. Leatu Latu, who's kind of supposed to be the edge rusher for the Indianapolis Colts this year, he had one noticeable moment, and it was when he couldn't bring Malik Willis down for a sack. Outside of that, didn't even realize that Leatu Latu was on the field. Kwity Paye has played in both preseason games. If they hadn't listed who the starters were, I would have had no clue. Would have had zero idea whatsoever. Cameron McGrone is supposed to be the starter at linebacker alongside Zaire Franklin. Never noticed him. Never realized that he was on the field. It's kind of concerning, the lack of production from the Colts starters in the preseason. Because once again, when you look around the league and you look at the best teams, they just look great in the preseason, and the Colts did not. Like, even the Jacksonville Jaguars, if you've paid attention to the Trevor Lawrence-led drives for them in the preseason, they look awesome. And then you compare that to how the Colts have looked, and it is kind of concerning. Like, it is the preseason, and so I'm trying really hard not to make a bigger deal out of it than what it is, but it is kind of concerning how bad the starters for the Colts have looked throughout this preseason. Now, tomorrow, there are, no starters playing. We don't have to worry about that. You're going to see a lot of guys in shorts and hoodies. There are a couple guys, though, that I am excited to watch play football. Ulysses Bentley the fourth. I thought, just think he's been really good in the preseason as kind of the Colts' final running back. He's probably going to be a practice squad guy going forward, but, I have to give respect to what you could argue is the best running back name in the NFL. Like, if your last name's Bentley, like, you have to play running back. That's just a fact. So, looking forward to seeing him get some carries tomorrow. Coach Steichen announced yesterday how they're going to kind of split snaps throughout the preseason between quarterbacks tomorrow. Jason Bean is going to play the second half. Riley Leonard is going to play the first half. I'm always down to watch Jason Bean play some football because that dude just kind of finds a way to make magic happen. He's probably going to be the Colts practice squad quarterback again. So very excited to watch him play. The other thing that is interesting, and I do think is important, Shane Steichen mentioned how he is going to get some guys in there that are not third or fourth string guys that haven't really gotten to play in the preseason, especially in the secondary. Juju Brents is going to play tomorrow. And that's important because he could be the Colts' week one starter at corner across from Charvarius Ward. Because right now, like I still don't know who's going to take that spot. Is it going to be Juju Brents? Is it going to be Samuel Womack? Is it going to be Xavier Howard? Right? Because, the Colts signed him. He didn't play football at all last year. Like, he needs to play in this preseason game against the Bengals because the Colts need to know what he looks like at corner. So those are the two guys in particular that are actually going to have a decent chance to impact the Colts' upcoming season. How do Xavier Howard and Juju Brents look? Okay, that is the biggest question that I have. Aside from that, it's the final preseason game. Just have fun watching some football. I will say I am a little sad. We don't get to watch Tyler Warren play football tomorrow, and I can't wait to watch him play. I can't wait. I was scrolling last night. I scroll too much. Anyway, and I caught this clip of Rob Gronkowski talking about Tyler Warren, and Rob Gronkowski is more excited about Tyler Warren than I am.
Tyler Warren is going to be a top 8 tight end this year. And I'm not being biased. I really like this kid. He just played the first 20 snaps for the Colts in preseason, and he had 3 catches, I would say, for about 50 yards. And it was 3 different tiers of catches. One, he did your type of route, Jules, where he goes into the middle of the field for about 5 yards and comes out, plants and comes out. Looks very athletic. Looked like a slot receiver at his size, 6'5", 256 pounds. And then he ran an out route 12 yards, looked phenomenal, and got a little bit physical after 2 where they couldn't take him out. And then he ran my play. The play action, Charles Barkley, where the linebacker step up, he found the hole and the quarterback hit him. He looked so solid. The game looked slow to him, and he just looked like a professional tight end. He's going to be a great player.
Rob Gronkowski right there talking about Colts rookie tight end Tyler Warren, saying that he's going to be a top 8 player or a top 8 tight end, in the NFL this year. And hearing Rob Gronkowski like lay out specifics of what he did well, like it gets me excited. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of excitement in this Colts offense for what Josh Downs and Michael Pittman Jr. are going to do with an accurate quarterback. I'm most excited for what Tyler Warren is going to do because that dude is a stud. And we kind of already know like what kind of a player Michael Pittman Jr. is. We already kind of know what kind of a player Josh Downs is. Michael Pittman Jr. going to work the intermediate part of the field, not really a big play guy, not blazing fast, not a big touchdown guy. He's just like a good, solid possession receiver. Josh Downs, we know what he is. He's fast enough to stretch the field, but it's kind of tough for him sometimes because he is smaller, so he runs a lot of shorter routes, and, he's a good yards after the catch guy. Michael Pittman Jr. is a good player. Josh Downs is a good player. They're not great, though. Tyler Warren could be a legitimately great player. Like if he's a top 8 tight end in the NFL, as Rob Gronkowski has predicted, a guy who knows tight ends way better than you or me, then like this is a guy who could blossom into like one of like the 3 best tight ends in the NFL. And that is such an important concept for the Indianapolis Colts this year. They're just lacking in great players. They don't have enough of them. Like the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year because they had not one but 2 great offensive tackles, 1 great wide receiver, and A.J. Brown. I would argue that Devontae Smith is just really good, not quite yet great. Javon Carter is a great defensive tackle. Darius Slay has been a great cornerback in the NFL for a long time. Quinyon Mitchell was a great cornerback for them last year. They've got like 6 or maybe 7 legitimately great players. Zach Bond finished second in Defensive Player of the Year voting for them as well. And like that's what wins it in the NFL. There's a lot of good players in the NFL. There's not a ton of great ones. And the Colts need for their young players who they have spent some high draft picks on to develop into legitimately great players. Like if you work through the Colts roster, I would argue they have 1, maybe 2 legitimately great players on their team. Jonathan Taylor is obviously a great player, probably like one of the 5 or 6 best running backs in the NFL. There's no debate on that. He's the only great player that they have on their offense. When it comes to skill guys, if you want to do the whole Quentin Nelson is a great player thing, like sure, fine. Bernard Raven, is he great? No, he got paid like second tier left tackle money for his extension. So really good player, not a great one. So Quentin Nelson, Jonathan Taylor, those are the only 2 legitimately great players on the Colts offense. Now, if A.D. Mitchell can finally figure it out and he can line up on sides, then maybe he turns into a great player. We keep hearing about all the separation that he creates and all these things. Like, that's cool. But, like, you've got to actually do it. Tyler Warren, like, if he turns into a great player, like that would just be such a big lift for Daniel Jones and the offense because Daniel Jones isn't very good. I know he beat out the truth who is Anthony Richardson. But like, come on. Like, there's a reason why the Giants didn't bring him back. There's a reason why the Giants decided that they would rather have Russell Wilson play quarterback for them this year rather than Daniel Jones, simply because he's not very good. And so in order for him to have a good season, he needs to be elevated. And usually, great players are what elevate young quarterbacks. Like, for example, why was Brock Purdy so good when he first became the 49ers starting quarterback? Because Christian McCaffrey is a great player. Deebo Samuel at the time was a great player. George Kittle at the time was a great player. Like that's 3 great players, and then you had Brandon Ayuk, who was pretty good. So 3 great players and a pretty good. That was what the 49ers needed to elevate a guy in Brock Purdy, who's like the 12th-ish best quarterback in the NFL. Same thing goes for Daniel Jones. You have to have great players around him. And I know that, some people think that this Colts roster is outstanding. I don't. I talked about this a little bit yesterday. I don't understand the people who say that Chris Ballard is a bad GM, but then they say that the Colts have a good roster. Like, those 2 things don't make sense. If you think Chris Ballard's a bad GM, like I do, then you must also think that the roster's bad, because that is ultimately his goal or his job. It is to build a good roster, and he hasn't done that. So there's a lack of great players on offense. And then you look at the defense. Charvarius Ward, great player. Like, legitimate cornerback number 1. Okay, the 49ers didn't let him go. He decided to leave after, the death of his 1-year-old daughter in San Francisco. He just thought it was time to kind of change places. Cam Bynum, I don't know if he's a great player. There's a reason why the Vikings let him leave. Like, there's a reason for that. So if Cam Bynum and Leatu Latu could turn into great players, like, that would be a major lift for this defense. Like, DeForest Buckner, past his prime, still a good player, but he's not going to compete to be all pro like he was, 5 years ago when he first showed up in Indy. Grover Stewart, good player, not a great one. Like, the Colts have to have some of these young players really develop into great players in order for them to have a chance to make the playoffs. It's either that or they're going to have some older players put together the best years of their career, right? It's either Leatu Latu turns into like a 9-sack guy or Kwity Paye has an 11-sack season. Which is more likely? I'm going to go with Leatu Latu developing, right? It's either, A.D. Mitchell and Tyler Warren turn into great pass catchers, or Alec Pierce does more than just make plays deep down the field. I think Tyler Warren and A.D. Mitchell is a little bit more likely than that, like a little more likely to happen. We're going into year 4 of Alec Pierce. I think we kind of know what he is at this point. So, in order for the Colts to maybe make the playoffs, they have to have development happen with their young players. I'm just not totally convinced that that's going to happen. So this kind of feels like a year where I'm going to be looking at the NFL draft pretty early, which is good because college football is back tomorrow. I can't wait. Zach Gray, he's going to join the show here in 20 minutes. We're going to talk a little bit about the Colts, Daniel Jones, and Anthony Richardson. And then we're going to talk a lot of college football. And I can't wait because, once again, it starts tomorrow. There's also been a development in the world of college football scheduling. I'll talk about that in 4 minutes.
Dan Dockage at noon. The real Jonathan Smith Show. Now, this is Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. You can head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X__Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app, or you can listen on 1430 AM if you're in your car in the Indianapolis area. Zach Gray, professional sports gambler, joins the show here in about 17 minutes. He's got bets, a lot of bets. I don't know if they're baseball bets. I don't know if they're college football bets, but he's got them, and he's usually right. So make sure you stick around for that coming up here in about 15 minutes or so. College football tomorrow. It's back. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be fantastic. My wife, who I love dearly, let me preface this next statement before I say that, who I love dearly, she's going to be gone tomorrow. And that means that I'm going to sit and I'm just going to watch college football tomorrow. It's going to be great. We got Iowa State playing Kansas State at noon. I'm 1,000% watching that. Idaho State, top FCS program. They're going to play UNLV in Dan Mullen's first game back as a college football head coach. That game's at 4. Going to try to watch that one if I can. I don't know what channel that's going to be on, but it's going to be cool. Can't wait for it. Fresno State, pretty good mid-major school. They're going to play Kansas. That game will be fun. Sam Houston plays Western Kentucky at 7. Meh. And then Stanford plays Hawaii at 7:30. So a lot like football on all day tomorrow. Colts play the Bengals as well. You are going to have your pick. I can't wait. Iowa State and Kansas State is actually going to be a lot of fun to watch. I'm going to do the sure shot of the week with Zach Gray here in about 15 minutes. I'm really going to let him pick it because I like getting my sure shots of the week presented by Moondrops Distillery correct. That's probably just me, though. I don't know. I don't know if other people in the world like being right. Now, the big news for college football, because it's week 0 and like there are games, but like the real games start Labor Day weekend, Texas, Ohio State, Tennessee, Syracuse, Clemson, LSU. Like those are the big games for week 1. Week 0, it's just a little appetizer into what the college football season is hopefully going to be. Now, the SEC is making changes to their schedule starting next year in 2026. So in 2026, the SEC is going to 9 conference games, and they are required to play one Power 4 team or Notre Dame with one of their 3 non-conference games. And this was announced, and Big Ten fans got all annoying, and ACC fans, actually, they play an 8-game schedule as well. And, Big 12 fans got all annoying. And they're like, hey, they're finally playing a real schedule. It's really funny. No one talks about the ACC and the fact that they only play an 8-game conference schedule. They only do it for the SEC because, let's be honest, no one likes the guy who's on top. And the SEC has been on top of the college football world for a really long time. And so, when you're on the top and you're better than everybody else, you get ridiculed a little bit more. So the 9-conference game thing to me is not a big deal. I think it is the most overrated thing. It's like, congratulations, Indiana. Your ninth Big Ten game this year is Purdue. Congratulations, Ohio State. Your 9th Big Ten opponent this year is Northwestern. Geez, that is just such a brutal addition to your schedule. I mean, oh man. So, I think it's a little overrated. The whole 9th conference game thing, like that makes your schedule so much harder. Like, did you see Indiana's schedule last year? Come on, like playing 9 conference games doesn't make your schedule that much more difficult than only playing 8. Now, the noteworthy thing, the thing that I really like, and I hope every other conference follows suit with, is the requirement to play in the SEC another Power 4 or Notre Dame team. That, I think, is so smart, because if regular season games are going to mean less with more teams getting in, which is how it works now. I know everyone wants to make Texas and Ohio State out to be some huge game and how it's so important for the college football playoff. It's not. If Texas loses that game, they're still probably going to get in. And if Ohio State loses that game, they're still probably going to get in. The reason why it's exciting is because it's two good teams, not because there's some college football playoff implication with the game. So hopefully, including more teams encourages and making there, a larger room for error. Hopefully this encourages more big matchups. Like Texas versus Ohio State week 1 is going to be awesome. It is. Like the hype and the excitement, it's already building. It is such a big deal that we aren't even talking about Clemson and LSU playing each other. LSU, with the number 1 ranked transfer portal class in the country, is going to play against Clemson, and Cade Klubnik, who's back for his senior year, and could very easily win the Heisman and could also be the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NFL draft. Like, that game is going to be awesome. By the way, Clemson deserves significantly more love than what they are getting. And I'm going to talk to Zach Gray about that here in 10 minutes or so. Syracuse versus Tennessee week 1. That game could be interesting. Alabama's playing Florida State. That game could be interesting if Mike Norvell can get it rolling there again. Virginia Tech versus South Carolina is going to have a ton of history when they meet. Shane Beamer, son of legendary Coach Beamer at Virginia Tech. That game, going to be awesome. Notre Dame versus Miami, Catholics versus convicts. That game is happening this year. One of the things that separates college football from the NFL, one of the things that makes it so unique is the comparison of conferences. I don't get it. I think it's dumb, but for some reason, Indiana fans have pride in the Big Ten as a whole. And like that is true for every team in the Big Ten. It's true for every team in the SEC, all that kind of stuff. Like teams have pride in their conference, and everyone wants to be able to say that their conference is the best, right? And part of that is because it matters, right? Like there's no set way to determine who makes the college football playoff and who doesn't. And so obviously, like if I'm coming from the best conference in the land and I have one more loss than you do, well, like I'm from the better conference. Therefore, I am clearly better, right? Like that's how the SEC structures a lot of their arguments. In the NFL, like that is not a thing. Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, and Raider fans don't parade around talking about how they play in the best division in the NFL. Members of the AFC North, the Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, and Browns, they don't parade around talking about how they play in the most physical division in the NFL. Okay, Colts fans don't brag about how good the AFC is. Like that is not a thing. They don't do that. But in college football, it's not only that they do that, it's that it is such a sense of pride for all of these teams, the conference that they come from. Bowl games used to be the place where we would decide, yes, the SEC is the best conference because they went 11-3 in their bowl games this year. Or, hey, the SEC, they had a down year this year. They went 6-8 in their bowl games, and the Big Ten went, 10-4 or whatever it is. The bowl games used to be the place where these which conference is better arguments used to be settled. That is no longer the case. Because what happens now in bowl games, players sit out. The best players don't play in bowl games anymore, unless obviously it is the college football playoff, right? And that's part of why they expanded it, because they want more of the best players playing in these postseason games. Here's the other reason why I really like this idea and why I hope every other conference adopts it at some point. We'll actually be able to tell whose conference is better, and that's actually going to matter for the college football playoff. Like, could you imagine for a moment here? One of the big arguments was, do you take a 3-loss SEC team over a 2-loss team from any other conference, right? Like, IU was always going to get in because they only lost one game. If you only lose one game in the Big Ten, no matter how bad your conference is. Like it doesn't really matter. But the argument for like Ole Miss over SMU, does that change if the ACC goes like 6-10 in their non-conference games against the other Power Four conferences, and the SEC goes 11-5? It absolutely shifts the conversation in terms of strength of record and which conference is the best and all of those things. And I am of the opinion that if we are going to do a college football playoff, like I want the best teams in there, because like that is the goal. The goal is to identify the best teams, period, not who has the best record or anything like that. Okay, because like if you're an honest IU fan, like that your schedule last year was cake. You know that it was. You played two good teams and you got your doors blown off both times. And the College Football Playoff Committee sat back and like 11-1, you're in. It's like, but are they actually better than these other teams? And it's hard to tell because we don't have the cross-conference comparison in a way that we actually should. So I'm glad to see that the SEC not only went to 9 conference games, but they also went to a required game against a Power 4 team in a different conference. I think that's a really good move. It should give us more good games like Texas versus Ohio State. South Carolina versus Clemson has been really entertaining the past few years. Florida State used to be really entertaining. Arkansas is going to play Notre Dame this year. That game probably won't be very entertaining, but hey, that's fine. And so on. Like it just makes the sport more enjoyable because there's plenty of years where like you have like big week 1 games and then week 2 and week 3, there's like nothing going on. And then you get to week 4 and teams start playing conference games. And then it really feels like the season begins. So I love the push from the SEC to kind of set this precedent of let's play the other conferences in our non-conference schedules, right? I think that's just going to be so much fun. I find it very, very interesting as well. And plus, it's a nice little tune-up for all these teams before they go into conference play. So going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to talk to Zach Gray about that coming up here in 5 minutes. Zach Gray also has a ton of bets. He's been rolling with the MLB stuff. His college football stuff will start tomorrow. We're going to talk about all that. We're also going to do the Moon Drops Sure Shot of the Week presented by Moon Drops Distillery with Zach Gray. All that coming your way here in 4.5 minutes.
Let's do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Hour number 2 of the Real Jonathan Smith Show is underway. Thank you for tuning into the show, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X, _ Jonathan Smith, to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app. And if you want good bets, follow my guy, Zach Gray, at ZG The Grapevine on X. If you check out the link in his bio, it'll take you to his Patreon where he sells tools to help you make better bets. It's Friday. The regularly scheduled appearance of Zach Gray happens now. What's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, Smith, it's here, man. My favorite time of the year.
College football tomorrow at noon. Dude, Amelia's gone. Amelia's gone all day. So I'm just going to sit on the couch. And I'm super excited for Iowa State and Kansas State for obvious reasons. Two ranked teams, a conference game. I think Fresno State and Kansas is actually going to be a lot of fun as well. I can't wait, man.
Yeah, I forewarned my new wife about tomorrow. Let her know that even though there's 5 games on, I will watch all 5 of them. So that needs to. Just wanted to make preparations there. I can't believe we're here. I love this sport more than anything in the world. And yeah, I just cannot wait.
It's going to be awesome. And you have bets as always. What are your bets for today or tomorrow, I guess?
All right. Well, we'll give you guys a little mix of both here. I have a best bet for college football, but we'll save that for last. But on the diamond tonight, I really like the Dodgers against the Padres tonight. Snell versus Darvish. Dodgers are -124 favorites right now. Model really likes them. I'm going to take the Dodgers tonight. 9:40 p.m. Eastern time. So if you guys are bored, something to fall asleep to, you can watch Darvish throw all 12 pitches tonight to the Dodgers lineup. And then moving over to football, I have a best bet here, and this might be a hot take, but give me Stanford +2.5 on the road against Hawaii. I was doing some research on this game, and obviously, the way that models work now, especially with college football, is you have to be very careful with early season model projections for college football because of the amount of roster turnover, the amount of new guys flowing in and out of each side of the ball. But getting a little deeper, Frank Reich is the head coach there at Stanford, and I think he brought in some guys that are going to really change the program. I think they have 14 returning starters, and I think they're going to be ready to prove something. And I think they're going to have a better year than what everybody's saying. And I think it starts tomorrow at Hawaii. I also believe Stanford's 4-0 all time against the spread against Hawaii at Hawaii. So I like that, but there's just something about the Stanford team that when I was doing my research on, I think they're going to be plucky.
Joined by Zach Gray, professional sports gambler. He's telling you to bet the Dodgers -124 tonight, and he likes former Colts Andrew Luck and Frank Reich +2.5 tomorrow. Stanford over Hawaii, and we're going to go ahead and make that our Moondrops sure shot of the week. Head on up to Fortville. Check out the Moondrops Distillery. They sell the best the best moonshine I've ever had. Really good. You can get it flavored. The apple pie, that is my favorite. Make sure you go and check that out. I can't wait. What are you thinking for the Iowa State, not bet wise, but what do you expect from the Iowa State and Kansas State game tomorrow? Because I do think that's the big one that people are really going to have their eye on.
Yeah, I think conventional wisdom is that this is Kansas State's year in the Big 12 to really win it. They obviously have the incumbent Arizona State to deal with, but I think people are really expecting Avery Johnson and co. to make that turn and really start to live up to the hype that we thought they were going to have last year. They have Dylan Edwards back, Avery Johnson, as I mentioned. They're an experienced team with a quarterback that's been there, but it's Kansas State. And I know that everyone is saying, Kansas State, especially on the betting side. I haven't seen one person take Iowa State on the spread. And just Matt Campbell, Rocco Becht, the way that they kind of performed last year, I wouldn't bet it. I'm not going to play anything on this game, but I would just be on the lookout for Iowa State tomorrow. I would not be shocked at all if they won outright.
Fading the public is usually a good strategy, and I'm with you. Matt Campbell's a really good coach. Like, Iowa State is going to play well. I don't like Avery Johnson as much as other people. I thought he was a little erratic last year. Now, maybe with, another year starting underneath his belt, maybe he's a little bit better, but I don't know. We'll see. I am excited about that game. But Zach, there's two questions that I've been dying to ask you. I know we tried to do a big college football preview thing, and it didn't line up. The first thing I want to ask you, who is your preseason top 10 team that is going to finish the year unranked?
Wow. That's tough.
I can give you mine if you need a second to think about it.
Well, I just have to remember who's in the top 10 here.
Here, I can pull it up for you. So obviously Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame.
Oh, this is easy. Notre Dame.
Yeah. Why?
I don't think they're going to be able to replicate the magic they had last year. I think quarterback is a problem. Anytime that your coveted 4 or 5-star quarterback is getting taken down to the wire by Kenny Minchie, who, doesn't have that pedigree, doesn't have experience. And, I think when you have problems there, and there's two types of quarterback battles that we're seeing, right? Or that we've seen. It's either both guys are not very good and you want the guy that's going to be less sucky, or you have
Colts.
two highly coveted quarterbacks, and you need to figure out who is going to have the higher ceiling, who's going to lead the locker room. And I think Notre Dame has the former problem. I think they have two guys that they don't really believe in, and I don't think they're going to be able to recreate the magic that they had last year, dealing with all of those injuries and still playing well. I think teams are going to be ready for them when it comes to their run attack. And this is also a same coach who has lost to Marshall, Stanford, Northern Illinois. Like, we can go down the list here. Like, this is not last year's team. And Notre Dame, as always, is severely overrated. And they're my first choice. And then I think my second choice here, if I had to say one, would be LSU.
Really? Okay. Mine was Miami. Once again, joined by Zach Gray at ZG the Grapevine on X. Check out the link in his bio. It'll take you to his Patreon where he sells tools to help you make better bets. He gave out the Dodgers tonight, -124 on the money line, and Stanford tomorrow, +2.5. I'm just not the biggest believer in Carson Beck. The LSU thing to me is interesting because you're not the first person that I've heard say that. I like Nussmeier. I think he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the country. According to 24/7 Sports, they've got the top transfer class in the country this year. What do you not like about LSU?
It's not that I don't like them, Jay Smith. I just think they're the highest boom bust potential out of anyone in the top 10. Like, for me, it's either LSU they get a bye, they're one of the top 4 seeds, and they're at prime position to win the national title, or they fall off a map. I don't think that they're going to be a 7, 8, 9, 10 seed. Like, it's either they're a perennial national title favorite or they fall off, in my opinion. I think that's just kind of how this thing works with big transfer portal classes like this.
Yeah.
With make or break years with seemingly with Brian Kelly. I don't think he'll get fired if they have a bad season, but when I say make or break, the seat gets really, really, really warm. So it's not necessarily that I think they're bad or that they're going to fall off a cliff. I just think that they have the most potential to behind Notre Dame, if that makes sense.
It does. I'm glad you said Notre Dame. It gives me just like a little slimmer of hope that Arkansas can beat them in week 3, whenever that game is. It's not going to happen, but it makes me feel just like a little bit better about it. The other thing, and I want to preface it by saying this, like, this could be a me thing, this question that I'm about to ask you. It could just be where I live. It could just be how focused I've been on the Big Ten trying to get ready for the year. I feel like Clemson and Penn State are pretty similar, returning a lot of really important starters, including a starting quarterback who is a projected first-round pick. The difference is they actually have a head coach who's won 2 national titles instead of, James Franklin. Why isn't Clemson being discussed in the same light as Penn State?
Well, I think I don't think they're being discussed on the same level as Penn State, but I think the same talking points have been echoed for Clemson. I think people that are really in the know and understand college football right now have Clemson on their radar as a team on the level as Penn State in Texas and Ohio State. I think Clemson is definitely a national title favorite. Not the favorite, but one of the favorites. And I think everything you said is correct. They have all of the pieces. They have a 4-year quarterback who is likely going to be a first-round NFL quarterback. They have a dominant defensive lineman in Peter Woods. They have probably the second best wide receiver core in the country. Like, there's a lot of things that line up for Clemson. And, shout out, if Dabo can pull it off, you kind of got to give him his flowers. I don't necessarily like to bring my own guts like he wants me to. But you got to give them respect if they pull this off. And I think they have the talented roster to do so. Don't sleep on Clemson. I think you and I both know, but I'm telling everyone else that's listening, Clemson is a wagon. They have a elite roster again, and they need to be respected as such.
Especially since Dabo Swinney is a good coach. I know that it is for some reason unpopular to say that, but he is. You don't beat Nick Saban twice in national title games if you're not at least a good head coach. The other thing, I'm assuming you saw this. The SEC is changing their scheduling philosophy next year. 9 conference games, which is fine. The big thing for me, though, is the requirement to play another Power 4 school in your non-conference or Notre Dame. I want this to happen across the sports. What did you make of this news?
Well, I think for once you can kind of see a changing of the guard within college football. And I think the last 2 national title winners being Big Ten Northern teams has kind of shifted things. I think this is a move that the SEC got out in front of, thinking and knowing that they would have had to have done it. If they continue to play 8 conference games, they were going to be at a disadvantage when it came to the current playoff model. So adding this 9th conference game, evening things out, allowing them to play 1 Power 4 conference game in the non-con is just kind of a thing that they had to do to keep up with the Big Ten, make sure that they get as many playoff teams as they can in there. But yeah, I think this was kind of a sign of a cracking foundation where the SEC is the dominant leader in college football. And I think the gap between the SEC and Big Ten is no more. I think they're on level playing fields, and I think it's a Cold War of sorts right now.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go here, and this is why I wanted to talk about it, because I don't fully agree. I think that the 9 conference game thing is kind of overrated because, no one cares about the ACC and the fact that they only play 8. They only care about the SEC because they're the SEC and no one likes them. The whole last 2 national titles thing, Ohio State won 1, and when the SEC went on that long dominant run, Ohio State won 1 then. The other team that won 1 is Michigan, who cheated to do it. So I think that the gap has narrowed, but I don't think that they're on level playing fields like you're saying.
Did they play in those national titles? They play Northern schools or Southern schools?
TCU was in 1. That's a Southern school. And then
No, I'm talking about the national title game.
Washington. Wait, I'm trying to think. I just remember who won. I don't remember who
Washington
they played.
and Notre Dame, 2 Northern schools. Both national titles the last 2 years have been Northern schools, Big Ten schools, and then Notre Dame, who is in the middle of Big Ten country. Jonathan, you may not want to admit this yet, but it's here, brother. The Big Ten is right there.
Right there. Not quite there yet. I'm just saying, here, once again, joined by Zach Gray, professional sports gambler at ZG the Grapevine on X. Follow him there. Check out the link in his bio. It'll take you to his Patreon, where he sells tools to help you make better bets. You might be right. I just think that Ohio State, who's been, once again, a national power for the entire time that college football has been a thing, and Michigan cheating the way they did to win a title, that's not enough for me. 2 of the Final 4 teams in college football last year were Georgia and Texas,
and they lost.
But still, when you're talking about a conference, it's not just about the best teams. It's not just about the top 4 teams. It's about 1 through whatever. And I still would argue that
You're
the
right.
SEC is deeper.
You're right. The SEC has Arkansas and Kentucky and Mississippi State. So
Purdue,
you're right.
Northwestern, come on now.
We're naming the same teams, just in different places in the country.
I mean, no way. The SEC does not have anyone as bad as Purdue. Would you at least agree with that?
Mississippi State lost to Toledo at home.
Purdue went 2-10 last year. Rutgers isn't very good. UCLA, to their credit, I thought they got better as the year went on.
Rutgers would beat Arkansas.
No, they would not.
Today.
No, they would not. Come on now,
Jonathan.
Dude, we're talking
insane.
hypothetical football games, man. This is my area. I am an SEC guy.
Right, and you need to realize that when you're looking down the list, you're naming the same schools. Like Mississippi, that whole group in the SEC is very similar to all of the schools in the Big Ten that you're naming. Like, you can't make a case for Mississippi State not being similar to those teams when they lost at home to Toledo, who didn't even win the MAC, didn't even go to the MAC title game.
You're proving one of my points. This is why I think we need, across the board, to make every Power 4 conference team play another Power 4 conference team in the non-conference. Because we used to be able...
What's that?
Because we used to be able to compare conferences by the bowl games, but that's obviously changed with players sitting out and all those things. And so this is why we need it. I also think that it would help us. I think it would also help the college football playoff committee evaluate the conference teams. Because this is another hypothetical, but last year, right? There was a lot of argument for Alabama or Ole Miss over someone like SMU, who I believe lost. No, I guess they went 11-1 in the regular season. But my point is, we're gonna have a year where the 11th ranked team or the 11th seed goes 10-2, and we leave out a team that goes 9-3. But maybe if we have these non-conference games happen, and the Big Ten goes 12-4 in the non-conference, and Indiana is 9-3, and the SEC goes 8-8, and Ole Miss is 10-2, then maybe we can look at it and be look, the Big Ten's clearly better. Look at the non-conference record. And then maybe that's enough for IU to get the leap. Because I think you would agree with me that we want the 12 best teams in the country to make the playoff, not the 12 teams with the 12 best records.
Yes, but the games on the field have to matter.
They do. And I'm just saying that if you do this non-conference thing, where the Power 4 teams all have to play each other, I think it eliminates some of the hypothetical stuff where it's the SEC's better, therefore Ole Miss is better than IU or whoever else, kind of like what we had last year. There was no tangible way to be the SEC went, 8-4 against the Big Ten last year or whatever it is. There's never been a tangible way for us to compare conferences. And if this is going to be part of the criteria, which it seems like it's going to be, whose conference is better and all that kind of stuff, then I think we need a way to actually measure that.
But that's exactly why the SEC did it, because they could no longer get away with scheduling a cupcake in place of that 9th conference game. That's very obvious that's no longer allowed. That's no longer going to fly, and it's no longer to their benefit. And that's because the strength of the Big Ten has increased to the point where there is no gap. I'm not going to sit here and argue if you say the SEC is slightly better or the Big Ten is slightly better, but there's no gap. And so now the SEC is forced to do this. That's my whole point.
Joined by Zach Gray. Follow him on X at ZG The Grapevine. As you can tell, very passionate about college football. He also sells tools to help you make better bets. Just check out the link in his bio. It'll take you to his Patreon. How much time do you have? I don't want to keep you too long because I just know how we get going.
We're good.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. I don't know, I think the bigger thing to me, because the 9th conference game, as I said, I think it's there is validity in what you're saying. I'm not saying that you're entirely wrong, because obviously playing Kentucky is better than playing fill in the blank with some FCS school that no one's ever heard of. Yes. Yeah, them. But at the same
Why is it
time,
always Citadel?
because
I feel like
Alabama
it's
played them a
always
few years
Citadel.
ago. Alabama played them like multiple times and all that kind of stuff. Like that's obviously like better. That's better competition. Like, I don't know. Like, let's just take Alabama. Alabama's probably, not always, because they lost to Oklahoma last year, so you can't say always. Like, they're always going to blow out Citadel, and most of the time, they're going to blow out Kentucky. Just like for Ohio State, when their 9th Big Ten game is Northwestern or Purdue or whoever, like, it looks a little bit better than beating some FCS school, but like the difference for me, like, really isn't that big. I think the much bigger deal is the requirement to play another Power 4 school out of conference.
Yeah, and there's going to be – you can still get away with scheduling
Two of them.
Cincinnati or someone like that. Like,
yeah, that's the thing,
garbage,
dude. Northwestern's phones are ringing off the hook right now. Everyone's calling Northwestern.
Yeah, let's get a home with Cincinnati, and well, that's kind of what Nebraska did.
Yeah.
Speaking of Cincinnati, this game has been the week 1 game. I think it's week 1. Whatever. Nebraska plays Cincinnati, and it was originally a home and home, and this game was supposed to be played in Nippert Stadium, Cincinnati. And somehow, some way, Cincinnati made the decision to move their home game to Arrowhead Stadium, playing Nebraska. So they play a home game at Arrowhead, and then next year they play at Nebraska. Like, you're going to see a lot more of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, which is, like, I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, I'm excited for it. It's better than, Nebraska and the Citadel or whoever.
It's like Cincinnati is it's a money thing, right? They are sacrificing a game on their campus in order to make the money. So they moved their home game right in their opponent's backyard. Like, that is to add to this point about the arms race and scheduling and extra conference games. It all comes back to the arms race of money. And like, I just don't think it's for the best of the sport for this kind of stuff to be a money thing instead of a competition thing. And I think you can look at it as a competition thing like we kind of did, but you can also look at it from a money thing. And like, do you think it's good to move a matchup like Cincinnati, Nebraska into an NFL neutral site stadium instead of an on campus? No, I think the conversation we're having leads to another overarching kind of ominous cloud over college football.
Yeah. And yeah, the fact that they would move that game is weird. Cause like you said, the money thing, I would figure that they'd want to keep it on campus. I also just think from an excitement standpoint, like if Texas and Ohio State, which is obviously not the same thing as Nebraska and Cincinnati, but if Texas and Ohio State were playing in Dallas at like Dallas Cowboy Stadium, like the game just wouldn't feel the same. So that's interesting. I'm surprised that they moved it. I do want to ask you this because we've been talking a lot about scheduling and those things. IU last year, a schedule merchant. They're not going to get away with that again this year. They got Penn State, Oregon, and Illinois on their schedule. But have you noticed any team where it's like they're going to be good and that schedule's really soft? Like, is there a team that you've seen that could maybe be in Indiana, have a similar season to Indiana, where we think they're good because they go 11-1 or whatever, but then once they show up in the college football playoff, they get beat pretty bad?
You know who kind of has that vibe right now? North Carolina.
I know. Are you nervous about our over/under 7.5 wins bet yet?
A little bit. Now that as we get closer, I'm very nervous. I said under on that, and I don't know if I feel great about it.
Yeah, it's all right.
Well, the thing was, I wasn't quite. It was just one of those things where I was like, "This is going to crash and burn," and then you dig deeper, you look at their roster. Gio Lopez has experience at the quarterback position. That's like the biggest thing that you can look at. You look at that schedule and it's super, super, super soft. And, I think they're a boom or bust as well. Like now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think they go 7-5. I think they're on the fringe of playoffs or they're 9.
We'll see. I'm very intrigued by them, Colorado as well. We've talked about both of them quite a bit. So besides Colorado and North Carolina, who's the team that you're most interested in?
Ooh, Texas Tech. I just want to see
Yes.
if they can pull it off with their roster obviously is very well compensated. They went all in. I think Morton at quarterback is kind of the question. If you can just get point guard distributor out of him, I think they're definitely going to be in that mix. But they're definitely the most interesting team outside of the usual suspects.
He's a good player, or excuse me, he is a good player. I'm blanking on his name, even though you just said it. He threw for 3,300. Morton, yeah, he threw for 3,300 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 6 picks last year, which is pretty solid, especially if he's going to come back for another year. I toyed around with the idea of betting them plus 600 to win the Big 12.
I don't think that's a terrible bet.
Yeah, because no one knows who's going to win the Big 12. Kansas State's the favorite at plus 550. It's like no one knows. So that whole conference is interesting. Last thing, and I will let you go. I flipped it on us. I said I was going to ask you first about Richardson and Jones, and then the excitement for college football just took over. What would you make of the Colts' decision to go with Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson?
Yeah, I mean it's picking, who's better out of two bad players. So that's not really what I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
I want to talk to you about how I don't forget that you rode with Anthony Richardson well past when you should have gotten off the bandwagon. And now you're trying to spin it on X like you were always anti-Richardson. And I just want your listeners to know, and you to know, that you were pro Richardson well after you shouldn't have been. And I kept telling you that this was going to happen and this was going to be the end result. And you kept telling me, no, he's still young. Look at his athleticism, all of his tools. And now we're here. And now you just did the Colin Cowherd where you acted like you never said any of those things.
He is my hero. He is my hero. Here's full idea of what's been going on, because you don't get to listen to the show every day. So before training camp started, I predicted Anthony Richardson to be the starter. After a month of training camp, I flipped to Daniel Jones because we kept hearing Shane Steichen say, and by the way, I will not deny, I did really like the tools of Anthony Richardson coming out of Florida. I did, absolutely. But in terms of this year, because before this year, you're absolutely right. In terms of this year, I opened with Richardson. I flipped the prediction to Jones because of two things. And this is something, Zach, I'm trying to get better at. I'm trying to ask myself this question. Like, what are the arguments? Like, the argument for Anthony Richardson to start had nothing to do with how good he was at football. It was about he's only 23 years old. He needs reps. And usually when you say someone needs reps, it means it's because they're not very good. And then with Daniel Jones, the argument was he can run the offense. I was like, oh, so you're telling me that guy's better at football than the guy who, quote unquote, needs reps. And I will also say, I have not been in the boat of this year of he's only 23. My thing has been, it's year 3. Like, you got to figure it out at some point. And if you don't figure it out going into year 3, then you're probably not going to figure it out at all.
Yeah, I mean, I knew you can vouch for this. I predicted he was done like midway through his first go around. Like, I know that he got hurt his first season, but like the start of last season early on, I think I told you, I was like, yeah, it's not going to work. It's done.
Yeah, it's, one of my listeners wants to know.
Jay Smith, I want you to know, I want you to declare right now, it's over.
Oh, it is. Yeah. It's absolutely over. I've got a listener submitted question for you. He wants to know, with the Colts picking Daniel Jones to be the starting quarterback, will you bet over or under 7.5 wins for the Colts?
I think with Daniel Jones at quarterback, I think they're right around 7-8 wins. I don't think I would bet over or under, but I just think the Colts have enough of a foundation around him to where they're not going to be a terrible football team. I mean, you've seen that the last couple years. Like they're good enough and have been good enough to be in the hunt graphic. And I know that's not a place where you want to be. You either want to be at the bottom of the list or at the top of the list. But the Colts love to be on the wrong side of an in the hunt list.
Dude,
so do the Bengals.
I was saying them and the Bengals, man, just hanging out. Last thing for you, or I guess two things. One, are you going to watch the Colts and Bengals play tomorrow?
Probably not.
I don't.
I would rather watch UNLV Idaho State than watch an NFL preseason game.
Yeah, totally fair. I'm in the same boat. I'll probably go back and fast forward through all the commercials. And then how good are the Bengals going to be this year?
I think they're a playoff team. I think they have a chance to win the division. I really, 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 really think that them playing and getting meaningful snaps in the preseason with the starters out there is going to be the difference. I think that they get all the kinks out in preseason and they start at least a little bit faster than they do normally. Even if they start out, 2-2 or 3-2, even if they started out like 2-3, like that's enough for them to get into the playoffs. Because if you look at the last couple years, they've been right there, right at the end. They've, they're the first team out or the second team out, or there's a tiebreaker that goes to another team. Like I do think the Bengals are one of the top 10 teams in football when they actually are playing the way that they're capable of, and that usually happens about week 7 or 8 of the season. I think that gets sped up a little bit. I think the Bengals have a real shot at winning the North.
If their defense can be not even average, the defense can just be below average, then they absolutely do. But that's the question.
Yeah, I think the defense thing is severely overrated. I think you saw. I think that the opinion on the defense got formed early on in the season when everything was really, really bad. But Jay Smith, I think we've talked about this. If you go back and look at their last 6-7 games, they were really good. They were creating turnovers. They were getting off the field on third down. Like there was a lot of things about that defense last year with some guys being out who are returning. They have some nice pieces that they've added. Like that defense being the worst ever is overblown. Do I think they have an elite defense or maybe even a good defense? No, but I think they have a serviceable defense and an incredible offense. And it's just a matter of them getting out of the gates like
not
a normal
0-4
NFL team. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a bet your way, and you can noodle on it. You don't have to bet it. You should bet the Jaguars over 7.5 wins.
I love that.
You do love that.
Yes, I've been telling anyone that'll listen that we have to stop acting like the Jags are a bottom 5 team in the NFL this year.
Here's the biggest thing, Zach. I made a lot of money last year betting the Commanders over 7.5 wins. And it wasn't because I thought Jayden Daniels was going to be good. Zach, I would love to sit here and tell you that I thought that Jayden Daniels was going to be awesome right off the rip. But turnovers fluctuate a lot in the NFL. And so I have found it is very smart to bet the over on teams at the bottom of the league in terms of that sit at the bottom of the league in turnover margin, because the luck tends to swing their way a bit more the following season. And so the Jags were 29th in turnover margin of the bottom 4 teams. I like their quarterback the best. So I'm going to bet them over 7.5 wins.
Yeah, and I think Liam Cohen is going to be an incredible coach.
I do too.
I think he's going to put guys in specifically Trevor Lawrence and Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas and Travis Etienne. Like I expect bounce back from Lawrence and Etienne for sure. I just think he's going to put those guys in a really good situation. I think they're going to get easy completions, easy yards. I think he's going to be a really, really good NFL head coach.
I do too. I'm really excited about it. Zach, it's been like 2 weeks since I had talked to you. So on the air, obviously I saw you last weekend. Congrats again on getting married. Hopefully we can do this again next week.
Yes, sir. I would love to be on every Friday.
As always. All right, buddy. I will see you later.
Thanks, Jay Smith.
That is Zach Gray. Follow him on X at ZG The Grapevine. He does a great job covering college football, gives out a lot of winning bets as well. So make sure you go and check him out. We'll be back talking Colts, not playing Anthony Richardson in the preseason game tomorrow, even though he needs reps, in about 4 minutes.
may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Big thank you to Zach Gray for doing 35 minutes with me here on the show. That is way too long, so I have to hit another break. When we come back here in about 3 minutes more on Anthony Richardson not playing in the preseason game tomorrow.
Hey there, Hoosiers. Are you ready to give your child a head start on their future? Indiana 529 savings plans are a simple way to save for their education. Plus, there are some great tax benefits. The best part? It's not just for college. Indiana 529 can be used for tech schools, trade programs, apprenticeships, and more. Start with just $10 a month at myindiana529.com to help them reach their dreams. Read the disclosure booklet carefully before investing. Sponsored by Indiana 529.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy's Sports Ticket. If you head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X__Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app that you can download wherever you find your apps. The Colts will close out their preseason tomorrow when they go on the road to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Neither team is going to play their starters. So obviously for the Colts, that it means no Daniel Jones. It also means no Anthony Richardson, which has a lot of people a little bit upset, because how can the guy who needs reps get better if he doesn't get them in the preseason? Well, Shane Steichen yesterday had a reasoning for why Anthony Richardson will not be playing in the final preseason game.
He's one play away, from going into an actual game, and don't want to take the risk there. In that situation, we got a lot of our 3s and 4s playing in this game. It's their last opportunity to go prove it, to make a 53-man roster, and that's where it's at.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Shane Steichen's lying. If we hit him with a little bit of truth serum before that press conference, I think he 1,000% would have said what he just said. We want to play our 3rd and 4th string guys. We want to get healthy. Anthony Richardson's one play away, all that kind of stuff. But he's not telling the whole truth. Anthony Richardson is one play away. And if he gets hurt, and you are then one play away from running Riley Leonard out there to play quarterback, which is a terrifying thought, because there's a reason why he was a 6th round pick. Okay, all of the Sam Ellinger apologists that are now, hopping on the Riley Leonard train, it's the reason why he was taken in the 6th round. And it's because he's probably not going to turn into an NFL level quarterback. The real reason, though, why Anthony Richardson isn't playing is because Shane Steichen doesn't want the headache. He can't have Anthony Richardson go out there, play great, and then have to deal with all of the heat that then gets raised around what is an already pretty controversial decision on his part. We see these kinds of things happen all the time in sports. Pay attention to what happens in New York this year with the Giants. Giants fans have been treated to multiple impressive outings from Jackson Dart in 3 preseason games. He looks good. I do think part of that is Brian Dable. Like, if you watch the games, then there's a lot of, Jackson Dart throwing screens and short passes and all of these things, right? But occasionally, he'll escape and he'll make a nice throw, or he'll hit someone deep downfield. Now, as soon, and it's going to happen quickly, as soon as Russell Wilson starts to play bad, Giant fans and Giants media are going to start calling for Jackson Dart, because they've seen Jackson Dart play good football in a New York Giants jersey. Doesn't matter that it was against backups. He looked good on an NFL field in a Giants jersey. Shane Steichen wants for you, and he wants for me, to have this image of a 48% completion percentage Anthony Richardson in our heads for as long as possible. That is what he wants. Because the more that we picture Anthony Richardson that way, the less we are going to want him to be the starter. And this is especially important because Daniel Jones wasn't very good in the preseason. The 2 times the Colts fans have gotten to see him under the lights in a Colts jersey that wasn't red, he wasn't very good. He completed 53% of his passes for 245 yards and no touchdowns. If Anthony Richardson goes out there and has a half where he completes 63% of his passes and the Colts score touchdowns on 4 of their 5 drives, then you'd have to deal with the backlash of that. Oh, Daniel Jones didn't look this good in the preseason. Let's just completely ignore that it was against 3rd and 4th string players for the Cincinnati Bengals. Shane Steichen is just trying to avoid the headache. Because if Anthony Richardson walks out there and he balls out, then that's just another layer of this quarterback controversy that he has to deal with. And I don't blame him for not wanting to deal with it. If I was a coach, I would want as little drama as possible. I think that is what Shane Steichen is trying to accomplish with this decision. Anthony Richardson is already wildly popular because he's, freaking Zeus in terms of talent. But, the accuracy in those things, not quite there. People really like him, and the Colts don't need him to be any more popular than he already is. Here's the issue. I was talking to my wife about this last night. So I'm sitting on the couch, and I'm doing all my prep work, and I'm listening to the Shane Steichen press conference. And Amelia, she has some comments. She talks about how Shane Steichen doesn't answer any of the questions that he's asked. And I was like, that's pretty normal. The issue for Shane Steichen is there is no charisma. None whatsoever. He is the dullest, most boring head coach in the state of Indiana since Mike Woodson. I mean, there's no personality whatsoever. Ben Johnson doesn't answer questions whenever he does his press conferences for the Bears. Andy Reid doesn't answer any of the questions he's asked in his press conferences that he does with the Chiefs. Sean McVay, same thing. Doesn't answer any of the questions that he's asked. Here's the difference. Sean McVay is incredibly likable. He's got a really nice smile, and he says it with just a little bit extra charisma. And so because you like him, you feel like he's answering your question. Andy Reid's funny. Andy Reid is a funny guy. He's going to talk about eating cheeseburgers and all that kind of stuff. And he's going to make some comment about his mustache. And then you're going to laugh and forget the question that you asked him. Mike McDaniel in Miami, same thing. Very charismatic. People like him. People don't like Shane Steichen because he's boring. And when you're boring and you don't answer a question and you say it, plainly, it just becomes more obvious that you're using coach speak. Van Pasterman is exactly right. Okay, coach speak. This is what Van Pasterman says. Coach speak is pretty standard, but you need charisma. That's exactly what you need. Because when you're boring and you give coach speak, it is plain as day what you're doing. Like as soon as Shane Steichen says the word process, I'm trying to come up with a segment for that because we had over the hump Wednesday when Mike Woodson was the head coach. We still have it. We're not giving up on it because it's too good of a segment and too good of a sounder to move off of it. But I need something for process because as soon as Shane Steichen says the word, it's a process. It's like, you're just not going to answer the question. You're just going to say that it's a process. You're going to say a couple other vague things, and then you're done answering the question. And then when James Boyd asks the question, and he does do a good job of this, he'll follow up and say, well, coach, do you have any specifics? I'm like, the process. And then that's it. Those are his responses. He just needs a little bit of charisma. Chris Ballard, say what you want. That dude's charismatic. He doesn't answer any question that he's asked. When he does, there's usually like a lot of BS in there. And then, but he says it in like a voice that's more charming than Shane Steichen's. He'll laugh a little bit. He'll play with the water bottle a little bit. And they're like, oh, what a nice guy. And then, you just move on and you don't ask him a follow-up question to press him further. So, Shane Steichen, I know you're listening. Just be a little more charismatic. It'll help you out so much, especially given all of the drama going on around you right now. He's on the hot seat, and Daniel Jones over the former number 4 overall pick. And, I heard Dan Patrick, who is an acquaintance, he had a take the other day where he's like, why is the player always a bust and not the head coach? I don't think that Shane Steichen's a bust. If you can go 17-17 with Gardner Minshew, Joe Flacco, and Anthony Richardson as your 3 quarterbacks and a defense that's never ranked higher than 28th in the NFL, I think that's pretty impressive. So we'll see kind of where things go from there with Steichen and the Colts. But Shane, do yourself a favor, man. Learn how to be more charismatic. It is so important. So important. That's going to do it here on The Real Jonathan Smith Show. I'll be back again Monday, 10 to noon. The Dan Dockett Show is back on Monday as well. Head over to YouTube, Indie Sports Ticket. Subscribe. Watch the show on there. The chat is slowly building. It was really good today. Hopefully it'll be good again on Monday. College football starts tomorrow. Eat good food. Watch college football. We can breathe. We can relax. Football season is finally back. I'll talk to you on Monday starting at 10 a.m.